Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Talking Town. My name's Adam. I'm joined by my constant co-host Steven. Steven, how are you doing today?
Very well. Very well. Looking forward to the later half of this week. Get my hands
Oh
on
my,
some product.
we're here, and it feels like today took an eternity. I don't know why. I mean, obviously I know why. I'm excited, but man, oh man, do we got some topics to jump through today before we get there. But Legends of the Forest has been something we've already been diving into for the last couple weeks now. But
Feels like since Minneapolis.
yeah, that's fair. It I know all the spoilers got dropped early, but all the showcases that trickled in earlier or last week, last week, made me, everyone's getting their cool kits, and all the showcases again are just, they did a great job this time around. Some of the faces I'm not super happy with, but you know what? There's some really cool art on most of these showcases. Let's see. Our first topic for the day, or for this episode, I should say, is the Jump to Light speed review. Man, oh man, where to really start? Darth Vader. I really liked Darth Vader. What do you think, Steven?
I think Darth Vader is very good. He's very popular. As evidenced by the play rate that we kind of saw in the month of June. I mean, Vader.
Yeah.
Vader.
Yeah, Vader. In all honesty, he's a very good leader. He's, broken into the top 5, which was awesome to see, considering how this set really started. And, we need to look back a little bit and think about it, because, this deck could not have been a deck while Jango was around. While, oh my gosh, what was it? Well, we just talked about it. What's the name of the tank?
War Juggernaut.
Yeah, thank you. War Juggernaut just shoots all the TIE fighters out of the sky every time it was played. And, I'm glad the card's still around, but I'm glad that also, we're past this. We've moved past the Jango part of this season. Definitely an interesting part or time of the game, though. I know people are gonna say the Jango meta was very stale, but I also like sometimes having a prominent deck that people have to build towards. When the meta is not always so as wide as it is now, it makes it easier to play in your deck, but also sometimes that it creates a non-player experience, which Jango definitely accomplished.
I mean, I like I shouldn't say that I like the singular deck, but it obviously makes deck building and meta planning so much easier, because you're going to be like, okay, I'm going to go in and maybe I'm playing a very unique deck that just generically is not good, but is very good into this very particular scenario, right? I mean, I wouldn't say set 1 Luke, for example, was a bad deck, but I think it was very, very well suited to help play into the Jango meta.
Yeah, it was something that, and since Django's gone, its relevance has gone down, which is unfortunate, because I wish leaders could both exist more prominently all the way around, but also there was still sometimes these incredibly strong archetypes. But yeah, I mean, obviously it was a sore spot to most, so we can just at least jump into the other highlights of the set that, now that we're on the other side of it and walking into Legends of the Force this week. We've got Chewbacca, we've had Clone Combat Squadron, we've had, oh my gosh, Dev was on. Which one did you say?
No glory only results.
No glory only results. Thrawn as a leader has actually kind of popped up in a few different colors in a few different places. He's much better than Thrawn from set 1, but he also, as the card pool continues to grow, he'll all be something you have to go back and check. Is this an actually busted interaction? Does activating something twice break something? some legendaries. You know, there was some misses. There was for sure some misses. A lot of big ships that'll never see the light of day out of a binder. Which is okay. There were some really cool ones. Annihilator actually saw play. What's the Executor saw some play. But then after that, it kind of felt like most of them didn't.
Funity like kind of got played initially early on.
Mm-hmm.
You had some unique home one situations.
Yeah, occasionally.
Yeah, I mean I think that's really about it from at least a Capital. Or Radiant 7 was very good.
Radiant 7,
for that window.
It was definitely a Django card, but also like outside of Django, it's something you could at least look at. It was just well statted and a very strong ability. Devastator, like I said, was mostly also just a Django era card. Since then, you've seen it maybe in Boba, but I don't think even every Boba deck runs it. You know?
I think, because you have the variations of Boba Green,
and Boba
you've got Boba Yellow. I think a lot more Boba Yellow decks have maybe started taking it out because they just don't get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just don't. They just don't play to get to Dev. So they don't.
Isn't
they
that
maybe
crazy?
Side it. Yeah.
Like a deck that could run Sneak Attack Dev may not be looking to use that. You know, like that just even after playing so much Django, that just shows how much Django was part of the enabler to that. You know, man, I'm glad it's not around as much because the 9/6 aspect of that thing was just way overstated. Not overstated, but like hard to balance. Hitting something for 6 in space is not easy to do.
Yeah, exactly. Like the out is pretty much fell.
Yeah,
that's like the only out to playing it. Space it wasn't really utilized for a whole lot of things because either you've got like a giant capital ship that you're playing from like Annihilate, or you're playing either Avenger or you're playing Dev or something. Otherwise, what space cards would have 6 attack
and
effectively trade?
Yeah.
Maybe home 1. Like
yeah,
set 1 home 1.
But they're coming out the same turn, you know, and it's like I don't know. Effectively, a 13 damage because of the 4 damage it dealt. Also, was always like this thing's a burn spell. I mean, we had discussions about this thing a long time ago, right before our review of Twilight. So you guys should go check back those episodes to see what we talked about in there. Yeah, I don't. After that, we could. I mean, most of the Vader Yellow, Vader Blue lists are filled with some pretty unique cards. Like Iden was one of my favorite cards from Vader Blue. I still think one of the best cards in the set. I think she gets just absolutely slept on when she's not being able to be removed. Like every Gar deck that's kind of floating around right now is basically running Iden, whether it's in blue or yellow, or green or yellow. She's essentially an upgrade, or a 4/3 upgrade with a shield for 3. So, I know I mentioned Chewbacca already. We had Poe Dameron leader, who's been kind of, he's like teetering on the edge of meta. Not like the highest caliber, but he's still like just short of Sabine.
Blue leader.
Blue leader. That's a hard one to miss. That probably are you maybe the best card in the set? Like in retrospect, is it probably? It might be the most played card from the set.
Blue leader. Yeah, I think it's used in the most things. Just because green heroism is a little bit more flexible. The best card out of the entire set.
If we reached out to our buddy over there at Swoo Metastats, maybe we could find out, because that would be an interesting thing to know. What was the most set 4 played card? if it's not something out of Vader, which it could be as well. I just think that card is in every. I mean, it's in every Sabine. It's in every version of I feel like I keep getting hit by it in this current upcoming set as well. And
you know what I'm going to say the best card in the set was?
What's up?
Gorilla Soldier.
You know what? Gorilla Soldier was hype. I really enjoyed that card. I think they did a fantastic job with its game design. The part I don't like is that it did 3 indirect. I think it should have done 2. I think that would have been the healthier way to. It creates a 5 damage burst under a clear board, which is kind of a lot for in this game.
But yeah, you're missing a lot of stuff. I mean, we got Ahsoka in there that was very good. I'm forgetting Cham.
Cham was really cool. Ahsoka was fantastic, especially during like Quinlan's time during oh my gosh, Jango's time. Like Quinlan was one of those decks that could contest Jango. Ahsoka was
Rebellious
huge. Hammerhead is good. Red 5 is great. I'm still putting Blue Leader above almost all of these, other than maybe Ahsoka. Yeah. But
yep,
Ahsoka
I still think I put Gorilla Soldier over those. I think Black 1's very good.
Yeah.
Timely Intervention, or not Timely Intervention. Timely Reinforcements is definitely a fun, very good card.
Thematic as hell. I love that card.
That was awesome. And then I'm completely blanking on the other card I was thinking of. It was the Poe Dameron unit.
Yeah, Poe Dameron unit was super cool too. He's notably my favorite way to see him is in Han, or Han 2.
Yeah,
but cool nonetheless because he's playable in Han 1 as well. Just a big Poe fan, just in general. Yeah, I mean, all those are great. It's genuinely, this has been my favorite set since set 1, and to me, it's not even close because like set 2 was supplementary. Set 3 really fell short of expectations to me, and we'll talk about all this in the next one as well, but or in the next topic, but yeah, I mean, so Gorilla Soldier's kind of where you end it. It's like that's your.
Yeah, I think I have to go with Gorilla Soldier because it's the most flexible card out of all those that we listed. It's a neutral card. Yellow.
Yeah.
Like it's the neutral yellow, right? And it's very versatile. I shouldn't say very versatile, but in the sense of you can use it in a very interesting ways where I'm gonna indirect damage myself so he can ready, and then I can so it's just fun stuff like that, as we saw Daniel do in the Denver Sector Finals. He targeted himself with the Gorilla Soldier. So
yeah, give me 1 second. And you did it in the our last video. Like there's actual footage of you doing that, because honestly, in a scenario where you need to punch or push out 2 damage, it's something that it's on the table. You can't let your opponent get caught up. That it's kind of like Cassian in a way, if you really want it to be. Yeah, I really enjoyed the set. As far as a drafting or sealed perspective of it, it wasn't my total favorite because it just felt like giant blowouts in space. There were like Luke to me in sealed was just very strong. And if you weren't playing red green hero, it was very very one-sided. It felt like a little bit. But we also forgot to mention Data Vault and the bases. Data Vault and Colossus were both huge. Nabat saw play with Gar. Not very much else. And then after that, Thermal Oscillator saw play in a few different styles of deck. I think primarily Piet was the thing it did best with. Maybe no, it was definitely Kazuda. But that's strange that a card that reduces your deck size could be both comparable in a control deck and an aggro deck. So that was kind of cool.
The one thing that I think, and maybe the leaders weren't popular per se, but I think we got a lot of leader effects that at the very least made things very interesting, or they're very interesting, even if we haven't quite figured out how to utilize them to the full potential, right? Mm-hmm. Because oh hey, we have Piet, we can arguably ramp really heavily, and get there, and that's a more simplistic one. But then you have Admiral Akbar, which is we saw some success there at the end. Very, very unique play style, very interesting kind of deck building. Mm-hmm. With that, you had the Han Solo leader, which maybe gives flashbacks to Boba Fett a little bit, but it's kind of just still interesting to see some mechanics with that, and you can also kind of see what the top card of your deck is in a way. Kazuda being able to just nullify abilities. So I think we got a lot of things that obviously can get better as we see more stuff, and even more so when our first 3 sets rotate. So
there's it's like scalability, right? Like Hondo from set 2 is like, he's just completely limited to his card pool, or not like his card pool, but like his smuggle usefulness. Yeah. And it's like, you just create a scenario where this card just won't get more use out of it than what it was given, which this is kind of a good way to lead into this next one, in my opinion. But let's see, was it earlier this week? I'll just pull it up. Let's see. Let's jump over to that one.
It was the 26th, so end of last week. There we go.
All right, Thursday article's up. Week. Yep. Thursday of last week, we had an article come out from Tyler Parrott. He's a lead game designer for all of Star Wars Unlimited. Basically explaining what they thought were the highs and lows of 2024. So, going through this article, he basically breaks down their ideals, their strategies, the things that they're looking for in hindsight, which is a great way to like study the things you've done. He breaks it down set by set. So, Spark of Rebellion, and I'll just kind of briefly go over this. And a big talking point about this set was how Boba Fett came to be the problem he was. We get into Shadows of the Galaxy, talking about the mechanics like smuggle and bounty, and then we jump to Twilight with coordinate and exploit. I'm going to link this down and below, and I really, really suggest for those who are always interested in listening to, game development talks, or like I can't remember, GDBQ Game Development Conference videos. There's a lot to see and learn from what they talk about in all this. Overall, the summaries of this is basically they. I jumped over to that other thing that I bought. They talk about obviously the mistakes, and I'll break it down, or Steven and I will go through it, kind of like how they did with starting here at the top with set 1. And I said it during the last topic as well. I genuinely think set 4 was my favorite set since set 1, and it's not because it's the birth of the game, but because I think it was genuinely the most well-designed set we've had so far, or like encapsulated. It was everything I had hoped the game could be. As we kind of get through that, though, you obviously see that there's a couple things they talk about here. The Rebel and Imperial archetypes. They say they landed perfectly, and as someone who played almost exclusively a villainy red deck with Imperial, basically, aspects or traits, I'm not going to say that. I will not agree to that one. You know, it's like, I'm probably one of the few people who played Snowtrooper Lieutenant as much as he's ever been played. And they are not even the same level of caliber of card as Rebel Assault, as Fleet Lieutenant, as Wing Leader. These cards are still insanely powerful. Sabine is probably one of the decks to consider, or to learn how to play against, the most importantly going into this tournament, or the Galactic Championships. What were your thoughts on set 1, at least so far, Steven? Or at least the things that they talked about here? Because we can jump into Boba Fett. He's kind of a separate little tangent, but
yeah. Well, I know they said that they thought set 1 was about as perfect as they could make it, which for the most part I agree. I think set 1 was very well designed. I think there's certainly things that were, like you said, the Imperial package clearly was not up to the same level as the Rebel package, but it did feel like they did a good job, even thematically, of, hey, these are some of the most popular Star Wars characters. These characters that are thematically or in universe very strong were some of the strongest cards. Like you had your Vader and your Luke. Arguably
Luke,
the two strongest legendaries in the game. They were very, very good. Like the two strongest units. That were good. You had these capital ships that kind of just would come down and finish the game in an alternate lane while also being able to control the primary lane. So definitely, I really liked a lot of that thematically. Obviously, you know, as we see here, the Boba Fett, he definitely warped set 1, which you know, is unfortunate. But I mean, even in a world where we have to go back to set 1 only, I mean, I don't think that it's necessarily the absolutely worst thing in the world per se. Obviously, Boba Fett was very strong, but I thought the set had tools in order to help counteract him. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, it's still, you know, single shell. I would, you know, it was still the best deck between set 1 and set 2. But, you know, like this is before Boba Fett's armor. This is before the oh my gosh, timely intervention that people were putting in with Boba Green. Lurking TIE Phantom, which is still a very cool card. You know, they mentioned here in the article that he was the top of the tier list. Basically, it says, I could talk about how we got here. All the leaders used to be stronger, and he was the only one that wasn't nerfed when we lowered everyone's stats. And now, this is probably one of the, you know, most important lines in this entire article, because this is kind of talking about their misses and highlights. We'll jump a little bit of this, or more of this, into the game design section after this part, but we knew this. FFG came out with statements about this, like, I don't know, early on into the set 1 meta, explaining that Boba Fett, or even before the game released, that this card was... I think the first things I ever heard about this game is that this looks really cool, it's a Star Wars product, and that this leader is insane. And this was the first deck I ever played. I played it in yellow, I played it in green, I've played against it in blue, and then until set 2, red was actually a thing because Triple Dark Raid was really good. This was in fact a very large miss by all accounts. It probably did more damage to the game than most people realize, I would say. I think when things like this happen, it can leave a really bad taste in some either new players or even experienced players, because it's like a worrying sign. But in hindsight, the speed at which they deal with these things, to me, has been more than fair from past game experience, where honestly they just completely ignore issues like this. I've played games where Boba Fett would still be legal. You know, and that's just That's just okay. But
barring all the negatives, I think one of the nice things about one of the nice side effects, at least in my opinion, of your Boba Fett or even your Sabine. I know it was a much smaller set, but even in set 2, you had these leaders that were the most played, the best, and you knew, okay, this is exactly what I have to deal with. And I know we still have a part of that today, but when you know, no, this is the best deck. It's say 20% better than any other deck. I feel like it's almost a benefit for newer players coming in, because it gives them a mechanism to focus on when they're entering either competitively in particular, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the at least the benefits of that piece. I know holistically it's not great for the true competitive player because it can get stale, but I think it is beneficial, for necessarily a new game to have something that's very clearly the best.
I know, and that's a great point to raise, in all honesty, because like, yes, having something to focus on is more important, especially when you're learning. I think that there's that balance that they'll, obviously we'll talk about. The word balance is very, very important in this style of game. But he definitely was a play it or beat it kind of person, or kind of leader. And it's also hard to say, because even in up to set 2, the card pool didn't get much wider for every type of card. Shadows definitely introduced quite a bit, which is kind of good to help us get into the next one. But again, the things that benefited are gold. Like there was cards specifically printed after Fett's Fire Spray was already in set 1, to help make Boba Fett better, because initially they had all thought that Boba Fett would be weak, which is pretty funny to me still.
Crazy.
Yeah, I like that the card, Boba Fett's armor is still around, because it makes the other ones more fun. But man, was the miss a little rough for some. The mechanics they introduced with this set, the smuggle and the bounties, have been really cool. Something we kind of talked about, I can't remember if it was right before we started recording now or after, but Hondo, like as a leader in a nutshell, has not gotten any new cards to play with in regards to like a smuggle component. And that's really kind of an unfortunate thing, because like, here's we'll say this from 2 perspectives. The casual player goes, man, I got this cool looking Hondo showcase. It is a really cool card. Why am I not getting any support? Why is the game going, yeah, where here we are going to be 3 sets later and Hondo hasn't seen, an ounce of upgrade. And his card pool might be getting better, but Hondo's not doing more Hondo things. And this is unfortunately rampant within every set. And some of these mechanics just they're hard to continue to support. So
yeah, you have these leaders that are only relevant in the vacuum, and I mean that's going to be inevitable. But when you've got these leaders that have so much potential to be very good and have they have this kind of unique play style, like generally smuggle most of the smuggle cards in general aren't very good, because they're going to be either just generically weaker, or their smuggle costs are much too high. Yeah, or they're very good, right? I mean, yeah. There are some exceptions, but when you get nothing to help, with these very targeted abilities with smuggle, bounty, coordinate, exploit, like you're never going to get anything more of it. What's the incentive to trying to stick with that deck, right? Because either it's going to be good the set it comes out, or it's never going to be good again.
Yeah, unfortunately, it like there was times that Bosk Blue was an incredible deck. There's times that, I mean, we've seen Smuggle, and Smuggle's right up there. I mean, I guess like Cassian and Timely Intervention are some of the best cards in the game. Like, it's not like just the, just the set.
Forgot to mention Tech.
And Tech. Like, let's give, a card that was so good that even Villain ran it. Like, for some time, it was just, this is it. This is the best late game card that will keep, it opens your whole deck up to a second choice of options. And I'm sure there's more. I play Geonosis Patrol Fighter. That's a exploit, but we'll get down to that one, which I think that's probably about it. I hope that we get more sets like this. But I hope that we start getting a mix of these, I would love to see a card that has both Smuggle and Exploit. And what does that even, do? What is that card? What could that card be? So, they're, right? It's like, we'll get these things that are, keyword jumbles. We have Gore. We have Eye of Scion coming out in this next set. Oppo Rancis, I don't know if I said that correctly, has the ability to copy any of these keywords. But give me these things that, truly are blends of all of these. And maybe they're just leading us into the first steps. Because I think that's what ultimately part of what their sets 1 through 3 goals were, is that to give us introductions to these, these mechanics. And with that, we'll kind of walk into what people probably consider unfortunately the worst set of the first 3. And it was kind of my most fortunate part, is that this is what ended 2024. Everyone was very excited for this set, but once all the cards were spoiled, it definitely was kind of lackluster outside of a few things. There's leaders in this set that are very good. You can see Anakin here. Rex has his cool interactions with Unity of Hope. Jango Fett was in this set, obviously a very, very popular leader. But Quinlan as well, and Quinlan was basically the birth of truthfully the hand control meta, or the hand control archetype, which was really cool. And we'll talk about him a little bit more in the next section as well, just because I think any 3/7 is something to look at for what the status line, or the baseline of how to curve this game. Coordinate and Exploit, though. These are almost some of the most irrelevant abilities in the game. If not, they are. I don't think there's really a debate about that very much. Singstoner Shuttle is probably the only Coordinate card that sees mainstream play right now. Am I?
Only one I can think of.
And also in the same deck is Geonosis Patrol Fighter, which is, I think, the only exploit that, I guess,
I mean, you can count Dooku as marginally played, but I mean, regardless, if you are playing it and you play it, every time your opponent is going to be like, what?
Yeah, it would be very shocking. Which is really unfortunate. I really liked the idea they were trying to go for, but this game is so hell-bent on trying to manage your opponent's board in specific matchups that things like Exploit and Coordinate are just never going to be viable. In almost every scenario, I'm looking to trade units, or trade up, or trade down, or not trade down, but make sure I'm in control of the board state. It almost doesn't matter what set or what deck it is. Even in Sabine, sometimes you are the control player. It's very rarely, depending on the matchup, but it does happen. And another important thing to mention in this article here is that they mention it here, but the uncommons didn't get as much scrutiny since they were simpler and therefore more predictable, which led to the weird value distribution within the set. This is a running theme throughout all of the sets of Star Wars, and probably the number one leading reason as to why you can see this set cost almost $45, whereas release was about $100. This set had some good cards, but its top of the line legendaries or just things that will not they may see play, but if they see play, I will just buy the singles by themselves. The boxes are not worth the they're just not worth it. He talks a little bit more about some of the unique designs like Chancellor Palpatine, which is really cool. Yoda is also a really good leader that's seeing more play now with the release of Set 5 coming out soon. I don't really think most of these other ones are. Saj was okay. It had some very cheesy burst potential. And then their goals for looking into 2025. So I'm just going to read these off real quick because I think this is the most important part. We should design cards and mechanics that highlight the core game mechanics that make Star Wars Unlimited fun. Star Wars is an awesome IP, and the more we can lean into the characters and moments that players love, the more exciting it will be. This one's probably my favorite of all of these, just because I think this is thematically the coolest thing about the game. I think there's things that they have absolutely nailed that feel incredible. Like Force Throw is still my favorite card of the game, as much as I hate it. We need to be diligent to ensure our sets don't experience scope creep, power creep for others. We can't let them lose their simplicity or identity by trying to accomplish too much at once. That one kind of
vaguely agree with that.
That one, like, yeah, I'd almost say push it. Like, you know, there's so many cards. There's so many cards that are just rough. We can't be afraid to take risks with the new play pattern, and we need to have a clear vision of what a balanced card looks like so that we're more confident and willing to push an iconic card's power level. So these are a little contradictory if you want to look into it, depending on like how scrutinizing you want to be. But one more, having lots of units isn't an inherent advantage. We can be more generous with our creation of unit tokens. This one's huge because Vader literally couldn't have existed before Jango, but now that, like, if we had in a world without Jango existing ever, Vader would have been playable from the beginning of this set. It looked dead on arrival into Jump to Lightspeed, and I hope that there's more of this, because then this would enable these coordinate and exploit strategies. This is the only way it works now, is because Vader's playing such a low curve that I can just play 2 turn 1 units. And of course, the final lesson: no set will be perfect. As long as we're learning and improving our craft, there will be more opportunities to make awesome cards and mechanics for this game that we all love so much. And may you feel inspired to try something new. Like I said, this was a wonderful read, and we can jump into this. Honestly, these 2 lines right here are a nice segue to our next topic. Balance. You want to at least like walk us into this one?
So with the balance moving forward into the game, like how are we going to, how should we expect them to address overall balance when it comes to leader creation, maybe even just we kind of touched on the power level of various rarities and the scrutiny that they've achieved. So, I mean, with leaders to start, I think everyone wishes that more leaders are playable and in competitive. Or alternatively, is I think they need to do a better job of either distinguishing hey, these leaders are going to be very good in draft or sealed, and
Hmm.
these are obviously going to be more premier uh, format leaders. Now, on one hand of that, it means you actually need to expand uh, your draft and your sealed formats, make them more popular. Uh, but overall, we just want the leaders to at least be playable, and obviously it's not going to be perfect at all, but it's also just a conscious fact of you recognizing, hey, maybe this leader ability is actually kind of weak, and maybe you just have to play more cards that are just specifically good with this leader, play into the mechanic more. Um, as opposed to just a generically good ability like giving experience tokens for almost nothing. So,
Yeah.
um,
No.
so it's just a matter of piece there. I know one of the big things that it's not so much a game balance question as a set balance question, but you know when they mention the how some of these uncommon cards what they consider weaker on average because maybe they don't scrutinize them to the same level. I do wish that they did a better job of spreading out power levels across legendaries and stuff. Complexity of a card doesn't necessarily make it good. Now I can
Yeah.
understand in a vacuum why, oh, maybe in sealed this card is actually very good, so we don't want it to be a common or an uncommon. Okay, I can get that to an extent. Put it as a rare. Don't give us a trash legendary, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
Right.
and if you're
Yeah.
giving us trash legendaries, your game longevity is not going to last because it's suffering in one of the, in my opinion, three key categories that a card game needs to survive. Because A, your game needs to be balanced, balanced, fun, enjoyable, right? So that's kind of the first thing,
Hmm.
right? Two, you need the game to be affordable,
Yeah.
and then two, you need to at least support those the stores that are selling your product. And I feel like one of those tiers is severely lacking, and that's uh, you know, or it's being crushed by the affordability, right? Because you can buy singles so much more cheaply than anything else.
Hmm.
When you've got $2, $1, $2 legendaries, that's not good. That's not good and sustainable for your game. I don't think it's good from a business perspective either. Because I mean, at the end of the day, you want to make money. Doesn't mean it can't still be affordable, but you know,
Yeah.
when arguably these most sought after cards are $2, you know, no one's going to want to buy your product. So it's not good for you. It's not, honestly, I don't think it's good for the player either because part of the excitement of card games is opening product.
Hmm.
So, you know, at least in my head, I really don't think you should have a legendary that like for sure costs less than $5. And personally, I think a legendary, you know, your cheapest legendary should probably fall about the $8 mark. Like,
I.
and maybe that sounds
Yeah.
expensive, but I mean, it,
I.
I come from a background where it's a card game. It's not likely that you're going to have every single card in a set.
Mhm.
Uh, you know, and that's kind of what it feels like we're at right now. Is like everybody's just going to have 100% of the set, which I mean is great for accessibility, but it it it, it you know at least in my case, like I after like maybe the first month, 2 weeks to a month, I'm like, I don't really care about this set.
Yeah.
Why do I need more of this set? Right? I'm not looking for
Uh,
anything.
that's exactly what I was going to ask you. It's like set four. I know you have a list. You mean you told me the other day it's like a list of legendaries that you're still looking for, but like, why would you rush to buy anything? You
Yeah,
know
yeah, exactly. Like, like
what?
you know,
What's
I just keep a list of stuff that I need, and some of this stuff that I still have, you know, from set four, some set three stuff. I'm like, yeah, like, sure, I'd like to have it, but I mean, I
Yeah.
don't really want to just drop cash for it on TCG Player. I don't want to.
No.
I'm not like looking for it that intently, right? Like, I care more about collecting the rares.
And I'll explain it like this as well: is that on Thursday I'm gonna go spend probably $350. Like that's 3 boxes at my local LGS or my my local game store, my LGS, and it's like I'm happy to do this. I love supporting my stores. This is I think this is the 4th different store in a row I've done my pre-orders at, to just like, I want to spread it out to make sure everyone gets like I hand every part of the community my money, just to make sure that gets spread around so that none of these stores go through this crisis of like, I mean, if you're sitting on Twilight boxes right now, I'm sorry, but what are you gonna do? It's not every game is built to be Pokemon or Magic, and that is completely on 110% fine. I am so excited about where this game is, where it's going, and the things I'm looking forward to within Game Balance itself. But like, holistically speaking, I want these stores to be able to do that too. Now, I know like this set will finally be the set where we get big box stores included in there. But I hope that when those people go to those stores like Target, Walmart, GameStop, whatever, and they open a pack and they see their card, a hyperspace scramble TIE fighters, or the equivalent in this next set to that, and they're like, did I just spend $10 on 2 packs and pull literally $1? And these are like 2 of the legendaries, like it feels bad if you're going to monetarily approach everything. The collector, which is unfortunately also someone who's like suffered, I'm going to be honest, I think someone who suffered since the beginning of the game. The collectability of this game is fine. Showcases are very good, mostly unplayable. I say showcases, I mean the leaders that are equivalent to them, which does drive the price down quite a bit. And if I pull like the Finn equivalent in my box, I will be unfortunately pretty sad on these next 3 days. But also that's just something I'm gonna sell to the store, or see what I can get out of it. I just hope that things that I open, because I'm just doing standard boxes, not the collector's ones, don't immediately tank as much as they have in the past, which is also completely fine if they do. I enjoy the game either way. And we've kind of stepped away from Game Balance as a whole, but like the health of the game itself is also important in regards to Game Balance, because like you said, financially speaking, this has to matter to both the player and the store. This is achievable through price points and altering the legendaries and rares in the set to a better, like elevating the power of the card, or at least shifting it around so that people are looking for things that aren't just the collectible parts. Like right now, if I were to open Shadows, I'd be pretty happy if I pulled a Poe. Poe's worth a decent amount of money. Can there be 2? Can there be 3 versions of cards like this? I hope so. Every set we've seen so far, and the legendaries seem to fluctuate very highly, whether or not they are truly sought after. I would not place the EV very highly, which is like the expected value so far into this set. I know we've got an upped legendary count since the release of was it set 4 or is it set 3? I can't remember. But
was it an upped legendary count, or you mean how many are in a box?
How many are in both? Okay. Yeah, set 3 and set 4, I believe, both had 20 legendaries to them, and set 5 has continued that trend.
Okay, I know they upped the amount in the box. I forget.
Yeah.
I guess I don't recall them upping the overall count. I know they did that for rares, but
yep, both. And and I hope that, you know, like, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. More of them being available makes more players able to be competitive ready quicker. I don't know. In a world where I hate saying the word scalping, but it is scalping, is so like highly sought after in so many different card games. I would hope that eventually one day Star Wars catches like its wave where these cards will go up in value. But like I played Pokemon when the amount of cards that I've seen and held that were worth, you know, nothing 15, 16 years ago to that are worth like thousands of dollars now is insane. It's, you know, time will be the thing that always, you know, eventually drives price up. As we've seen, I don't know. Do you follow Porg Depot at all? Do you know what that is?
Mm-hmm.
It's a website dedicated to tracking the market flow of basically every sealed product in Star Wars and showcases. You can sort through, you know, how everything's gone up and down on multiple selling platforms and with all that data. Set 1 is at $140 a box right now on TCG Player. Does that set right? Isn't that kind of surprising?
Yeah, I didn't realize it was still that high even after the reprint.
Well, it's scaling up. It's slowly, you know.
That's also surprising considering the rotation.
Yeah.
And let's trilogy format kind of.
This is what's kind of cool to this game, in my opinion, is that every set is its own experience to draft, and you know it's what Magic players have always done. They would buy the play boxes or the draft boxes to just draft a specific set, and you know I know Star Wars is doing it now, but I hope that those continue to see the sea level rise for the other sets. It may take a long time. And as soon as showcases start to become like less of them out in the world, then maybe, you know, people might be starting to crack boxes, but I don't know. The other part, you know, like you had mentioned with all of this is just actually balancing the game. There's two ways to look at this. It's either the game is perfect and doesn't need changes, or you hope that they're fast enough to change things. And in this case, I'm glad that they're fast enough to do that, because you know what, this isn't their first like major, you know, card game, but this is their first trading card game. So I'm giving them the grace to basically say there is going to be mistakes, but let's make sure we continue to nip them in the butt as fast as you have been, and that we also, like the article said, try to push oh my gosh, I'll pull it back up. There we go. Let's see. We can't be afraid to take risks with a new play pattern, and we need to have a clear vision of what a balanced card looks like so that we're more confident and willing to push an iconic card's power level. So today, if you saw a Boba Fett unit or a Boba Fett leader, but it didn't have his ability, but he's still deployed on 5 with a Force 7, do you think that'd be a competitive card?
Are we talking no ability on his flip side and still has his regular leader ability?
Yeah. Or no. Sorry. No abilities on either side. He's still deployed on 5, but he was a Force 7. Do you think that's
I don't think he'd be played.
You know, that's Mother Talzin. Just very slightly different, though. Like, that...
Boba leader is effectively Mother Talzin.
So Mother Talzin has her, you know, obviously her leader side. You can do a -1/-1 to something at the cost of the Force. So essentially you're either setting your deck up to enable that part, and let's say you don't get to do that turn, or you do. What's her best line of play is basically dealing a -2/-2 +3 damage. You know how close that is to Boba Fett still? Like, without an ability? You get what I'm going at here?
Yeah, I get where you're going at it. I guess I just can't relate to it because of the action economy of the game.
That's fair. And that's part of what made Boba so incredibly powerful, was definitely his ability to reset the oh my gosh, the resources that he used. But like, if you can get close to these two things existing that are, like, Mother Talzin is not viewed as an issue by any means right now, right? Like, she's probably one of the best leaders in this set, but I don't think anybody's saying she's so unbearable that, she's just dominating and everything. But I think if we actually had a leader that was a 4/7 that deployed on 5 right now, it'd be more competitive than more leaders than I care to admit. It's better than probably half of the Twilight leaders. It would probably be just as good as some of the Shadows leaders. It's probably better than, like, you look at like the new Anakin. He's a 4/6. It's like, so the difference there is like, Boba was just that strong, but also like, they realized the most important part of this that I'm trying to emphasize is that his stat line at that time was such a high, or so much higher above the curve than anything else, is that even without his ability, I think he would have been one of the best leaders in the game then. His ability is just, obviously they missed the mark on that. But it should go without saying that there's a reason we haven't seen a 4/7 on 5 since then. It's because of what they learned. But I also hope that in the future we learn more about like what these stat lines can look like. Because I, for one, am getting kind of tired of seeing 3/7s on 5. I'm tired of like these leaders that are like very low damage, high HP that attribute like nothing to the board. Because the leader is the most important card in your deck at the end of the day, or at least your most important thing about the game too. And there has to be room to improve what they've done. Like, what they've established is good, and we know where like these HP pools are breakers. But if it continues to be like, I can't have a leader with more than 4 or 5 damage that deploys on 5, then you're never going to get to see the other side of like, what does it say right here? We can't be afraid to take risks. It's like, if we only see 3/7s for the rest of the health of the game, it's going to get stagnant in different degrees. So
I definitely agree with that. And I mean, honestly, I don't even like, it feels like all these 5-drop leaders now are like 3/6s. Like, they're like 3/6s is like the default. 3/7 is like a bit better.
It is. It's not even close how much better it is.
Yeah, it's a fair bit better. And honestly, I feel like it's a normal stat line for 6 drops these days. But like, I mean, I don't even think a 4, like, I think a 4/6 5-drop, like, sure, it's a well statted leader, or a 4/6 for 5 is still manageable. I think that's a baseline we could get to.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it's manageable for sure. But yeah, I think the issue was just some of the pairings that you had with the Boba Fett, right? They just naturally worked too well with him, that made him so much worse than he was in a vacuum, right? Because you obviously had the overwhelming barrage on curve that was just so unreasonable, and then you got to ready resources, right? Because you cleared stuff.
Waylay was a whole nother beast set 1. Like, Waylay was one of the best cards in the game, and Cunning was right there above it. And it's like, those we haven't seen since then, which is really nice, because 3 Waylays was sometimes a lot. You're just not doing anything, and the Boba would refresh 1 resource or 2, just because you did that.
So yeah, I think it's more just a matter of trying to make sure that we're accounting for breakpoints correctly. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you just got to recognize, in the design of a card like Overwhelming Barrage, where it's like, okay, well, I can flip my leader, and now I can, and in theory, we'll say in theory, a leader will survive its flip for at least one action.
Yeah.
For at least one action, leader will survive its flip. Is kind of the baseline assumption I think someone can make. Some exceptions, but generally yes.
That would be the, I think, the baseline. Yeah, like unless your name is Kira, where you're already getting insane value by deploying, I would hope that yes, your leader will stay on the board for at least one action.
Right, but I mean, with some of these leaders, like obviously, like a 4-drop leader or a Kira, they're there for, to help tempo swings, to help restabilize. Right, they're not meant to stick around, and I think so. I think they're kind of a little bit more of an exception. But when you've got these 5-drop leaders, these 6-drop leaders that have their 6-7 health, the idea is, okay, I could probably survive an action. And you just have to be careful of how strong can my next action be.
One of the ones that I was thinking about, like, just because you're bringing this health total up with a very important mile marker for it, I think Yoda's particularly one of those ones that I really, really like. Adequately power level based, in my opinion. He's, like, thematically speaking, I think a 4 is a great number for him. And then 9 is just like a tremendous amount of HP, but you're also deploying on 7. Now, he is well statted more than, Cad Bane has 8. He's meta relevant. Old Vader was a 7 deploy who had 8. It's like Yoda has also the built-in removal. I like that they brought that number up though, because it just made it like there's 7 deploy leaders, like the new Rey, who is a what is she, a 5'8", right?
6'8".
She's a 6'8". Stat wise she's great. Her deploy is just super late for how unfortunate her ability is. But the mark can so easily, it feels like your average player can sift through these and kind of determine. I'd love to actually see that. Like, if I had a new player say, I'll show them a picture of Vader and I'll show them a picture of Sabine, and I want to see which one they think is the better card, and have them explain it. Like, what does someone who hasn't spent this much time looking at these think? But God, I mean, we could sit down and talk about this for hours, to be honest with you. I think I think space was something that definitely broke open in this last set, so that was kind of cool. Like, I've just been still playing Vader Yellow almost exclusively. I'm probably not going to swap off of it for any time in the near future, but it's probably the only deck in the meta right now that has such a huge space focus that I'll just keep doing my thing.
It's just perfect because it's just one of those decks where it can focus on its gimmick, but it's still given the tools to not have to ignore the other lane, right? You still have tools like Sanction or Subtle to disrupt. You still have Overwhelming Barrage, which a lot of these other space decks do not have the capability of, right? So, if they try to ignore ground, there's a lot of, decks that can just not care.
Yeah. Overall, though, I do think the game is in a healthy state. Obviously the results have shown that this has been the most wide open meta that we've played in. It's been in the best place it's ever been in as well, like, without a doubt. The problem that I'm still seeing, though, is that there's so many leaders that are just dead on arrival that I would love to see them have a home, not just because other formats exist, but because Premier can be a place for them to exist as well. And this next set, I'm putting it out there that I'm betting 2 leaders are up there for like, the A, maybe, floating area, which are Obi-Wan and Mother Talzin. I think most of the communities kind of rallied around that, which both happen to be, right in those sweet spot numbers we talked about. The 3-6 on 5 for Obi-Wan, and then the 3-7 for Talzin. So,
see, I think I'm in the minority. I still don't think Talzin's like gonna stick around. She might be popular, but I don't think she'll be competitively great as we move forward.
And you know what? Maybe I'm just the scared Vader player, because her ability can destroy one of my tokens every turn. So
that's fair.
I think that's a good way to at least end that one for now, because like I said, we could go for a while. There's
I will say the one thing that I hope for leaders is I hope that they do some more interesting targeted mechanics for stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So you pick a leader, and it leads you to a very particular way you want to build your deck. Now, I don't want it too simplistic, but mm-hmm. Stuff like Kylo is a very specific thing where it's like, oh, this is a guy where I want to put a bunch of upgrades in my deck, and it's not a scenario of he's just a worse leader than this other thing where I play the exact same deck.
Yes, yeah.
And that's the focus that what I want. I want the leader to actually adjust the deck that you play, and not just play a leader in a color because, hey, this is the generic list for these colors. Here's the leader I'm going to play with it, and you just pick the best leader. I wish that they target that better, whether that's you focus on a card type, you focus on a trait, and I know some of their trait stuff hasn't been great so far, but I think that's more than an element of they probably need to do a better job of printing cards associated for that leader then, or make sure that they're also planning for the next set thereafter, and then the third set in that year. So
just to go on top of that, like Morgan Elsbeth is a card that I think is incredibly cool. Like the ability to discount the cost of something to share it based upon like a shared keyword is kind of like a oh my gosh, it's kind of like sharing the traits, but like it also is like, all right, what kind of Morgan Elsbeth deck am I going to play against today? Is it going to be this heavy Sentinel deck that plays lower below curve? Is it a heavy ambush deck? It's like that is a unique way to play things, similar to like how Boba Fett from set 2. Like that's always a card I look back at and I'm like, all right, what new keywords did we get that are good for this color combo? And those help. Those they're just much wider. I do hope we do get more Hondos, basically, is what you're saying. And I hope that those Hondos get more support. Because we can't have, these leaders existing like this constantly, where, they just won't see more play. And, I'm very lucky that, like, Darth Vader being one of my all-time favorites is a very playable leader, because after this last set, I was like, what leader am I going to play that I'm going to enjoy that also happens to be really good? And other than Sabine and Han players, it's been kind of hit or miss for a while, But I think what the average player would probably prefer that more of the characters they like are highly or at least more competitive. And I think that would be a statement that could be applied to everything across the board. But yeah, speaking of, some of these leaders going into this next set, what was the leader you were talking about that you were thinking about pre-release if you hit?
Oh, I think Snoke is the
That's
best
right.
sealed leader in the set.
He is an
He's
absolute behemoth.
we've already established that Rey. I'm gonna focus on Rey, but I mean, there's also Rey Datavolt. I know nobody plays Rey Target Down but me, but you have Rey Datavolt that was good. Adding experience to stuff to get things just slightly out of reach is still a very good strategy, and the fact
So
that
annoying.
Snoke himself can do this to just any villainy card, right? Now and it just costs one. You don't need to use the force, so you're not reliant on another mechanic. It is just give an experience to a villainy unit. I know it has to be the one with the most power. Don't think that really matters too much. With the action economy, you can either stall and make sure that it gets onto the thing that's already on the board, or you can wait a turn. And just getting it that little bit out of reach is just going to be very good. If you can out-trade your opponent in sealed for retaining board control, it's the key to winning. You don't have things like ability to remove things effectively. You don't have the same likelihood of just best cards out of the set being dropped to deal with your threat, right? It's very tempo incremental of once you get ahead, it is much more difficult for the opponent to get ahead. And really your one equalizer a lot of the time is your leader flip. And the Snoke leader flip is still very, very good. You could argue he's effectively a 5/8 on flip, which for 6, that's the stats of Vader from set 1.
Yeah.
There's a 7 drop. And he can get even bigger. And there's not a good way of removing a leader out of this set. So, I think he's crazy.
Yeah, they managed to create a problem and not give you the answer pretty well sometimes.
And he's a common.
And he is a common. Wow. I do hope that a lot of people get to do like very thematically cool things. I think set 4 did a really good job with that. I know, oh my gosh, was it Anakin? No, I'm forgetting what leader I was really excited for. I probably won't get to play in a pre-release, unfortunately, this time around. But I know we had mentioned it right at the top of the episode, or at least like maybe
a leader from set 4,
set 5 that I'm like looking forward to. Like if I were to able to make a pre-release.
You said Kylo, didn't you?
Yes, it was. Thank you. I was like, I would have a lot of fun, especially like with sealed. I know most of the lightsabers are probably rares and legendaries, or at least like one legendary. But like you already have such a smaller size, like playing deck that you could use his ability to like draw through the deck and create this like unstoppable, just giant unit, which is really cool. One of my favorite things to do in card games is make the big Voltron things.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And the other thing too is, a lot of the time in these situations, you get all these events, and a lot of the time, or not events, upgrades. And in most sets, your upgrades might be a little underwhelming. Well, guess what? When you're building your deck and you're like, oh, well, I have to play these cards. Oh, I have to fill into my 30. Maybe I have some not so great cards that I really am like, oh, I don't really want to play this. Well, guess what? They're cycle cards now. So
yes, like, oh no, and it's like if you're not focused on winning, and if there's nothing worth winning, or like if your store's just not doing like prize packs, then you know what, pick whichever one you want to try and have some fun. But I think I'd be doing Kylo if I was trying to win, or just wanting to have fun. There's a lot of big bombs too. What do you say?
I was going to say, if you had to pick like 3 or 4 leaders that you think are posted for, or definitely good to try and do well in sealed, what would you say they are? Obviously, you like Kylo, but
I would go for Avar, just because she is an 8/10 on swing, And even though there's quite a few good Sentinels, I don't see if you can manage to stay even for a while, then Avar. If you can't, then Kit Fisto's probably one of your, your jumping off points, because he is the aggro red. Calcestis is probably actually really freaking good. He he's your 4-cost deploy, 3/4 that can use the force token pretty well. And if you can stick a lightsaber on him, it's your opponent is playing from behind, probably for the remainder of that game. It probably won't last much longer, in my opinion. Yeah, it'd probably be between those three. All fun, all like unique styles to me. How about you?
So obviously, I think Snoke is going to be the best leader. First sealed. Beyond that, I think Obi-Wan is definitely going to be up there. He's a 5 deploy leader. He's just going to make your stuff
he's
bigger.
So good.
Yeah. Now I don't think he's on the same tier. Because he runs into the force issue of what happens if you're not gaining the force. So he does have that setback. I think Kanan is potentially interesting because I think there is a decent amount of creature support in the set. I know you have some specters, but I think the creature support is probably going to be a little bit more meaningful. Shields are just going to be a way to help you keep things on board. They're going to stick, and the fact that he can be effectively a 5/8 plus shielded on his flip with that is just going to help.
And he's a 6 deploy,
He's a 6 deploy, yeah.
Yeah, so 5/8 on 6 is Vader. Like that's good.
Yeah, exactly. So I definitely think there's room for that, but it's going to be very dependent on what the rest of your cards are. But I think there's a lot of room there. I think, like you mentioned, Cal is still going to be has a lot of potential. I think Grand Inquisitor also has potential, surprisingly enough. He kind of still falls into the same issue of having the force. But again, I think just being able to just trade effectively into your opponent is good. He's a 5 flip leader, and so he can probably kill about anything on the board at the time that he flips, because it's gonna and take very little damage back.
How do you feel about Hidden as a mechanic? Not just in the pre-release, but in the pre-release as well, if you want to.
I think it's relatively underwhelming.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat.
If it was like a stealth mechanic from Hearthstone where it could not be targeted for anything, I think it'd be very good.
Yeah, I would not be okay with that. Would be too much, I think.
But the hidden mechanic of it just can't be attacked for that turn. I think it's only nichely good.
Yeah, the game is already like trying to play a unit with hidden to make sure it stays around on the board is kind of counterintuitive a little bit in a game that goes back and forth, because it allows your opponent to just, like they'll have the priority as soon as you play that if they want to play towards dealing with that unit first thing next turn.
Exactly.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, but I would be very happy to see it be more impactful than I realize. I know some people are very high on like Shin Hati, but I don't know. I mean, that's also just because she's shielded. Like that card's it's just good. There's no like surprise factor. Now the Force as a mechanic itself, I think it's been very good. It's been very interesting, and it's made me think that there's like a third way to build every deck, which has been really fun. A little mind bending, because it's like, holy cow, how many different ways can I put Han Blue together, or Han 2 Blue together? But or like Anakin Blue now has your Force, your Colossus, and your 30 HP, all of which can function slightly differently, but are all still very good. And how do I prepare for each of them? Well,
the last leader that I think has a lot of potential that's going to be unique to sealed and or draft, just with the style of the deck plays, is Qui-Gon Jinn. Because it's so heavy of a value game. If you play something, you're able to trade into their thing, and then you can just bounce it back to your hand to use later, and still play something else for board presence, and then you can, play the thing again the next turn. I think it's very strong. Imagine you just playing Qui-Gon, and you're like, I'm gonna just play my strongest unit turn after turn.
What is
and you're never gonna be able to kill it. And it seems potentially, again, I don't think it's a great leader. I think you're going to have to tailor it, but I think these are leaders where you have room to overperform.
Yes.
If you've constructed the right pool, and potentially be, the strongest leader with the right pool.
I think his ability with, like, if I saw you, everyone gets a Qui-Gon, obviously. But if I pulled like a Delepi or Delepi, I can't pronounce her. Delepi, the 5/7 ambush.
Balaba.
Yes, that one. The 5/7 ambush with Saboteur and Yellow Hero. If I saw one of those, I'd be like, all right, Qui-Gon is an option, because
imagine
now
if you got Keller and Beck.
Keller and Beck, yeah, they're like Hero Green Yellow looks very appetizing. Hero Green Blue looks very appetizing. I don't know
if you pull an Anakin and keep bouncing an Anakin back to your hand.
Sheesh. I'm waiting for someone to draft Kanan, and they're gonna run into the guy that pulled the hyperspace foil Vader out of the case, and they've also got like 2 Sheehan flurries or something. And they're just, that's just a sad moment.
Yeah.
But,
yep.
I as always, I think this is a style of the game that I think everyone should enjoy at least once per set. And depending on how they feel, as often as they can. Because I think sealed or draft are some of the best ways to enjoy card games as a whole. Because sometimes the competitive formats can be kind of redundant, or not redundant, but like boring, depending on how you feel about the game as a whole. Right now, I'm personally jiving on Vader Yellow, and I just want to keep playing Premier. I haven't cubed in a while, but maybe once this set and Galactic Championships have wrapped up, we can get back to doing that a little bit more often, because that's always a good time. But the card list is blowing my brain. So hard.
One of the things that I think we need to do for a pre-release is we need to do a counter of how many people's leaders died to Sheehan Flurry Vader.
Pour one out for that. Like, you can't stop me. I'll play one of them out of aspect. It doesn't matter. Yeah. So let me 2 for 1 you. 3 for 1. Yeah.
I want this to be a counter so bad.
But yeah. So, and if you've made it this far, awesome, and thank you so much as always. Go out and get to as many pre-releases as you can, or want to per se. The set looks baller as heck. I am like very sad I'm not gonna get to go, because then I'm gonna miss out on all the fun trading that always happens at the pre-releases. But I'll be around. Any last things you wanted to say about the Legends of the Force pre-release stuff before we show off some of this swag?
Nope, good. Just good luck with your pre-release polls. If at least it's my opinion that if you can get a pre-release box, I think the pull rates are a bit better than your average box. So I do highly recommend at least playing in a pre-release or 2 because of that reason. So
you have to take a picture of your pre-release kit now, because if you don't pull at least 1 legendary, you jinx yourself.
I said on average, and
I know.
I would say that my pre-release pack so far has been pretty good. Shadows was crazy.
Shadows just destroyed me. I that made me so angry. But then every other pre-release I've been to has been, I've gotten 1 or 2. I pulled 1 out of 3 pre-release kits. I was not a happy camper.
Yeah, see, you know me. I pulled 2 showcases out of my pre-release kits for Shadows.
Yeah, I remember. Fennec and what was the other one?
Fennec and Mando.
Oh, that's right. So I know some of you guys are also, members of the Omaha Alliance, our competitive team here in the one of them in the Midwest. We've been oh wow. Oh, they just sent the wrong size. Huh. I'm gonna have to get that figured out. I was like, why is that interesting? Basically, we ordered our jerseys. I think these came in. I think I showed the pictures off on the website when we did the website overview. But yeah, the awesome handmade OA logo from Sam. He blew it out of the park with this thing. The material is awesome. The company we went through is awesome. I love the collar. It's soft. It's breathable. We got our names on the back of them. Really cool. Makes me feel like a gamer out here in the world. Yeah, I love this thing. I'm afraid to wear it because I always manage to spill stuff on my shirts, so I have to set it aside and make sure nothing gets messed with.
Yeah, I can't wait till I get mine.
Dude, it's gonna be so cool having everybody with some nice swag. But on top of that, a little surprise I've been working on for just a little while now. Basically, with the new set coming out, I went ahead and took our logo, and you can see it there in the light, but this is just your standard challenge coin size. For any of those familiar, these are just coins that a lot of players in the game use for initiative tokens with different designs on them. But we put our Omaha Alliance logo on one side. It's all black on silver, and then on the other side it is a Force token. So rather than having everybody use the paper ones that come in the sets, I'm going to try be getting these handed out as soon as I have the rest of the batch. It's going to try and get everybody who's going to Worlds taken care of first, just because I want them to have the stuff for the big event. But hopefully I'll get the whole batch of, I think it was like 40 I got for everybody, within the coming weeks. But don't worry, they will be out there as soon as possible. And they're just my gift for you guys for, everything that... we're, 3 weeks away from, the big event? Not even.
22 days from landing in Vegas, right?
Yeah. I'm so excited. It's like we've gotten everything. We've gotten all the swag. We're getting all the prep in, the practice, picture. Like, we're just doing everything. And we're going to get there. It's not the finish line. If anything, it's just the beginning of it all. But it's just going to be an incredible experience, and I am glad I get to share it with everybody. So that's, do you have anything else you wanted to bring up this episode?
Nothing else from me.
No. All right. Well, then, this is closing out at about an hour and a half. So once again, thank you guys for sticking through this. I know this is sometimes a longer format of stuff, but come check out the videos we got coming out. I'm sure I'll have, depending on how much the wife loves me, maybe 1 or 2 Carbonite booster pack openings for you guys all to see over on the shorts. And then I ordered one of the Metal Fab Life Pucks, so there will be a product review video of that, because I think that product is awesome, and one of our locals was like, Adam, you need to try this thing out. So shout out to you, Marcus, for influencing me and my wallet. But yeah, until the next time, y'all, we will see you in the next one. So peace out.
Bye.